for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Bittt.tb. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Good Friday evening, everyone. Welcome to your weekend. My name's Matt Ohayon, in for Tony, as I usually am on Fridays on the Sick Podcast. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by Bittt beer. Bittt has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for those hot summer days, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 or 12 in groceries and dépanneurs all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Step into the world-renowned poker experience at Playground, where free food and drinks at cash game tables, a bad beat jackpot that is over $2.1 million, weekly promotions, daily tournaments, and unmatched customer service await you. Why play anywhere else? Located just over the Mercier Bridge, just only minutes away from downtown Montreal. Playground. Shop all your sports license, lifestyle apparel, including hoodies, caps, and tees of your favorite teams from all major leagues at sportsbuffshop.com. Use code SICK10 for 10% off all of their items. Something I got to quickly mention. We took last Friday off for obvious reasons due to the tragic death of the Gaudreau brothers. We didn't feel it was right to be, talking about the power play or potential moves coming up for the Canadiens that are still to be made by Kent Hughes, maybe, while the hockey world and really the entire world, sports world, was mourning the death of the Gaudreau brothers and still is mourning the death of the Gaudreau brothers. So that is why we decided to cancel last week's show, and Stu and I were not here. This week we are, though, so let's move forward. Let's bring him in. He's my usual Friday guest. He is Mr. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, and condolences to the Gaudreau family. And that story is just heartbreaking on so many levels. And with the Canadiens connection, I wrote a column this week just about the friendship Sean Monahan had with Johnny Gaudreau, and seeing the Blue Jackets had that vigil for Gaudreau the other night, and seeing Sean Monahan, they're just devastated. Just a horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy.
Yeah, just awful on all levels. I saw the other day on Twitter, there was someone posted something, and it was a screen grab of Johnny Gaudreau's wife's Instagram, and it happened to be their wedding anniversary, this past week. It's just terrible, terrible. So like we said, condolences to the Gaudreau family. There's not much left to say that's already been said. So let's talk, on a brighter note, let's talk Canadiens. So 32 Thoughts podcast restarts for the season. And there was an interesting part in the, in this new season, we'll call it. And, Elliot Friedman says, this is a direct quote, "We were in Europe with Juraj Slafkovsky, and he looks like a monster. He let us see some of his training. He looks like a beast, an absolute beast." Listen, we already set our early expectations for Juraj Slafkovsky. Kent Hughes has been on the record saying expect another dip, but it's hard not to get excited when you hear things like that.
He looked like a beast the day before the draft when he was in Old Montreal with top prospects, and I stood beside him, and I'm 6'3", and the kid was bigger than me. Yeah, off-season training. He's had a long off-season, right? And last season, he had that injury he had to recover from. This season, this past season, he stayed healthy to train during the off-season. I'm not surprised. He's a young kid. He's only 20s. He's going to still fill out, as remarkable as that might seem. You worry sometimes with guys like him if they get too heavy, which might slow them down a little bit. But we already saw his physical presence and physical ability at the end of last season, and he realized just how big and strong he is and how much he can use his body to his advantage in the NHL, which is something I don't think he really ever had to do as a young kid growing up, because he was the biggest kid on the ice, and anybody who tried to hit him would just bounce off him. And we saw that when he was getting rocked so often his first season in the NHL and early last season, sort of with his head down and players taking a good shot at him. But those players will be bouncing off him maybe this year from the sounds of what Elliott reported, and just how big and strong he is. I'm looking forward to seeing him at the golf tournament, which is a week from next Monday, and then the regular training camp opens up 2 days after that.
It's unbelievable how quickly we're moving. I remember, beginning of May, we're talking trade rumors before the draft. Will the Canadiens move the pick? And then before you know it, the golf tournament's here, and you just said it's a week from Monday. It is moving fast.
Rookie camp starts next Wednesday. It's we're getting back into it. A lot of the guys, as people have probably seen on Twitter and social media, a lot of the guys are already skating in Brossard, including Patrik Laine. So very similar to last year when a lot of these guys arrived early. I remember at the golf tournament, the players and Jeff Gorton and Marty St. Louis all talked about how nice it was to see guys arriving in Montreal well before of the date they have to arrive and already skating together in Brossard. So we're seeing that again this season. I think that speaks to the culture this team is building and just how much these guys like each other and they like being around each other. And it was nice to see Patrik Laine also being welcomed into the group on the ice in Brossard.
Just as a little TMZ report, last Saturday it was my best friend's wedding weekend, and we were out for dinner, just the groomsmen in Point St. Charles, and who walks into the restaurant? Caden Gooley. So he's been in town for quite some time. I'm sure he's been in town since Lasso, probably. So a lot of these guys spending the majority of their time here, which is, like you just said, into the culture. They want to be. It shows they want to be here more than anything.
Yeah, I know Brendan Gallagher's supposed to arrive this weekend. A few other guys. So I'm sure by middle of next week they're going to have mostly the entire team here.
Yeah, so it's great to see, because you want it to be like last year and the year before that, frankly, when going into the season, you probably know what type of season you're going to have. However, you want the attitude to be up. You want it to be upbeat. You want to be you want the vibes to be high, and that's what they're going to have this season. No exception to the past two.
And I think the Laine trade has a big reason for that. I think guys are excited to play with him, and just watching some of the video of him shooting the puck like effortlessly, top corner. Players are excited. He gives them, as we mentioned the last time we were on, he gives them a much better hope of making the playoffs. I still don't think they have enough to get there, but it wouldn't be totally shocking if they do. So I think the fans are excited about Laine arriving here, and I think the players are excited too. And I think that's part of the reason why so many guys are here right now and looking forward to getting to know him. And I mean, he knows Montreal already from being here as a visiting player, but, setting up, finding a place to live. I saw pictures on the Canadiens Twitter account. He's here with his dog. His fiance is here with him, getting to know the city. I know she was asking on social media what poutine is and where's the best place to get it and stuff like that. So it's nice to see. I mean, as I said before, I'm really looking forward to covering the team this season. I think they're going to be fun to watch. I think there's going to be a lot of really good storylines to follow. It'll be interesting watching the development of the young defenseman. It's going to be interesting to see how Laine fits in, where he fits in as far as on the lines and on the power play, and how Lane Hudson does. So there's a lot, I think, for Canadiens fans to look forward to this season, and I'm looking forward to it also.
I've kind of come around on the Canadiens going into the season, and I'll say the same thing. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs, but at this point, with the way that last season went and how those last two wild card spots were kind of filled out, it wouldn't shock me if the Canadiens were in the mix till the end at all. Because I remember when it came to maybe mid-March, there were about 7 teams in the mix. And I just remember talking to you one night, and I asked you point blank, Stu, do any of these teams want to make the playoffs? They all had the chance to pull ahead 2 points, 4 points, and they were all losing. It was the Flyers, the Devils were in there, the Islanders were in there, the Red Wings, the Sabres. All those teams were in the mix till the bitter end, and they kept losing games at the end. So it wouldn't shock me if something like that happened again, and the Canadians were in the mix this time.
So much of the focus, and rightfully so, has been on the Canadians' lack of offense, especially from their forwards. Laine hopefully will help fix that problem. But this is a team that also gave up the third or fourth most shots in the NHL last season. And I don't see that improving much now that we're going to have more young defensemen in the lineup. Jonathan Kovacevic, he was a plus 11 last year on a team that wasn't good defensively, and it speaks volumes. I mean, he was third pairing defenseman, not playing against the other team's top lines, but he was a safe defenseman, right? He knew his limitations. Jordan Harris also traded, -5 for what plus minus is worth. Another guy, like they knew their limitations. They have NHL experience. They were sort of safe. Now we're going to have Logan Mailloux probably starting the season with the team. Lane Hutson. Defensively, I think they're going to be giving up more shots. And we don't have Jake Allen here anymore, which in some ways is a good thing. We're not going to have that three-headed monster in goal, but we're going to see more of Caden Primo. Sam Montembeault is going to be the real number one goalie going into the season. So that's one of the reasons I don't think they have enough to make the playoffs, because even with Laine, the offense drops off pretty substantially after the top two lines, unless Gallagher and Anderson and Dvorak somehow bounce back. But I think defensively, the goalie's going to be facing a lot of shots, and with a young defense, I think I don't see them. Excuse me, I don't see them improving much in that category.
They do say that the best defense is a good offense. Yeah. So, if the Canadians get a lot of time on the power play this coming year, we expect it to be better. If they get a lot of time, if they sustain a lot of ozone time with the talented top two lines, I don't think anyone could argue that they have a very talented top two lines. Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise some people. But you bring up a good point, because I remember, consistently the Canadians giving up 35 to 45 shots a game, at points during the season, and that to me was concerning, as well as the one consistent thing throughout the season that kind of sort of never got better was the discipline of the team. That also needs to be fixed as well.
Yeah, and the power play
help bring down the shots.
The power play has to be better, and I think it will with Laine and Lane Hutson. They should have two power play units that can score. It has to be better, and especially if you don't have any hope of making the playoffs. They also got penalty killing's got to be better. There's a lot of areas this team needs to get better in. Hopefully for them, they were fourth in the NHL last year in goals by defensemen. Maybe they can keep that up. Maybe they can even improve on that with Hudson and Logan Mailloux, and Arber Xhekaj has a wicked shot also from the blue line. But again, just things we're looking forward to, and especially on the blue line, there's going to be. I was writing a column today, and I was trying to project what the defense pairings will be like. And I'm figuring you got Matheson and Goulet as your top pairing again, which makes sense. I figure they put Lane Hutson with David Savard, the veteran, to sort of keep an eye on him. And then I think the third pairing, we're looking at Xhekaj and Mailloux, who played together last season in Laval after Xhekaj got sent down. And that leaves you sort of Barron and Struble battling for the extra spot. Barron would have to clear waivers to be sent back to Laval. So I figure that maybe leaves Struble as the odd man out going in. But it's a nice problem for the Canadians to have with all these defensemen. And, by trading Kovacevic and Jordan Harris, Kent Hughes has opened spots for these guys to earn a spot on the team and show that they belong in the NHL. And I think also that NHLPA rookie showcase thing they have with Upper Deck this week, the two players who went were Hudson and Mailloux, which leads me to believe that they're going to start the season with the Canadians unless they really look bad at training camp.
And what is even further is just to the point of the young defensemen is while they are inexperienced, but inexperience could lead to youthfulness into the lineup where you don't know what you don't know and you play kind of fearlessly. So that's kind of the hope, I guess, that Martin St. Louis is going to bank on.
Yeah, I mean, management, Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon have both said, Jeff Gordon didn't want to say the word playoffs at the team's golf tournament last year. This year, they want this team to at least believe they can get into the playoffs, which is a big reason why they brought Laine in. but it's still about development, right? So this is a season where Mayu and Hudson, if they do start the season in the NHL, which I think they will be allowed to make mistakes, learn from them, and grow from them. It won't be like previously with the Canadians. I think of Victor Mete and those other young defensemen. You made one mistake, you were either nailed to the end of the bench or in the press box or sent back to Laval. They've opened these two spots on the blue line because Jordan Harris became expendable with the other young defensemen they have. Jonathan Kovacevic isn't going to be part of this team when they're ready to really compete for the playoffs. And this opens a spot for these two young guys, and at the same time allowing them to make mistakes without being punished for them, and instead learning from them. So that's why development is still the key this season, especially with the young defense core, to see if these guys are ready to play in the NHL. If Lane Hudson is big and strong enough to defend the offense, there's no question about his offense. Defensively, he's going to be big enough and strong enough. Logan Mayo, is he going to be strong enough in his own end? And it's going to be fun to watch. It's a nice situation for them to be in, to have all these talented young defensemen on the team.
To me, I also look towards development of the forwards, and to call a spade, I don't think anyone except for Joshua Roy, anyone in the bottom six has a bright future ahead of them with this team. So I'm interested to see how much further Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield can develop, because, yes, it's obvious we want to see Kirby Dach. We want to see Alex Newhook. We obviously want to see Juraj Slafkovsky. Patrik Laine is an interesting one as well, of course. But those two guys, Suzuki, it feels like there's not so much more on the offensive side to give, which is fine. If he has a little more to give, that makes him a point per game player. But I feel like a lot of people feel that there's still something to be desired from Cole Caufield, and I think there's a good chance we see it. We've talked about it before with the full training camp he's going to have.
Yeah, and consistency, right? I mean, that's been Cole Caufield's problem. He finished last season with 28 goals or whatever. I mean, he's almost hit the 30 goal mark, but he's been inconsistent goal scoring wise. He needs to improve in that. And Nick Suzuki's the poster boy for consistency, right? Every year he gets a little bit better. If the power play improves this year and they stay healthy, he's going to be a point per game player. He's just a solid 200-foot hockey player. But you mentioned Joshua Roy before, and he's the guy I'm really interested to see how the Canadians decide to use him when we're talking about player development. We've got Christian Dvorak still there, right? I'm sure Kent Hughes would love to be able to move Christian Dvorak and open up a spot for Owen Beck, right? To let him develop in the end. I'm sure Owen Beck's going to end up in Laval this season. But with Joshua Roy, the first two lines are set, right? And then the third line, it certainly looks like it's going to be Dvorak with Anderson and Gallagher to start the season, which would put Joshua on the fourth line with Evans and Armia, and Pizzetta sort of as the extra forward. But do you want Joshua Roy playing on the fourth line? Or do you want Joshua Roy moving up to the third line in place of Josh Anderson? And I think if Anderson, I think Marty St. Louis has shown that he'll do everything in his power to try and make Josh Anderson a better player. As he said last year, I don't give up on a player unless he gives up on himself, and he obviously doesn't believe Josh Anderson has given up on himself. So Dvorak, Anderson, Gallagher, I'm pretty sure will start as a third line, with St. Louis hoping that they can together inspire each other. Gallagher always plays better when he's with fixed line mates. Joshua Roy, it'll be interesting to see how they use him, because he's an offensively gifted player. The fact Armia played so well last season near the end, having them together might help. Jake Evans isn't, a great goal scorer, although all the goals he scores seem to be highlight reel goals. But so that's what I'm really interested to see, how Joshua Roy, how they use him, power play wise also, whether they keep him on the fourth line or move him up into other spots. Because he's sort of, we're talking about all the young defensemen getting opportunities this year. I think he's the only young forward, at least to start the season, just because of the bodies they already have and the contracts they already have, that will start the season with the team, and it'll be interesting to see how he develops in whatever role they decide to play him in.
Yeah, I also, what, with the way you drew it out, it wouldn't shock me to see, Joshua Roy move down to Laval at some point, just because of the fact of you want him in an offensive role.
Mhm.
If Josh Anderson has some juice left to give, you're not going to drop him down to the fourth line. You're
Yeah.
going to keep him on the third. And, do you really want the guy who looks to be a pretty good offensive talent? Do you want him playing 10 minutes a night in a checking role?
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
less? Or do you want him playing first line minutes in Laval? Just continue to develop. You can't
Yeah.
overdevelop.
You put him with Laval, with Owen Beck, and maybe Florian Jack guy on a line. Who knows? But
And that could be your third line in 2 years from now.
play the hell out of it. It's similar to what I was saying last year when they sent Jack guy down to Laval. Part of it was they didn't want him to get too comfortable in Montreal, and they obviously felt he was maybe getting a little too comfortable. And Arber's admitted that maybe he was getting a little too comfortable in Montreal, like he had his spot. But it was also, I'm pretty sure, to play him with Logan Mailloux. A left-hand shot, right-hand shot, two big guys, won't be fun to play against, two physical guys, two guys willing to fight if necessary. So I think that was part of the plan. And yeah, maybe they do put Joshua Roy down to play with Owen Beck and get experience playing with him, and maybe playing with Jack or Philip Massar, sort of the forgotten man out of this, right? Another former first-round pick. So as much as I'm saying the Canadians are going to be fun to watch this season, I'm looking forward to it. Laval is going to be fun to watch too. They're going to have a lot of prospects down there with the new head coach also in Pascal Vincent. So it's I think there's a lot for Canadians fans to be excited about this season, whether it's at the Bell Center or in Laval. And, Laval's a great place to watch a game. Ticket prices are reasonable, easy to get there by Metro. A lot of fun for fans who can't afford to go to games at the Bell Center. But asset accumulation has been the key for Kent Hughes since he took over as GM. And I wrote a column about that last week. And we're starting to see that now. They have all these assets as he's accumulated, all these young players and draft picks they've accumulated. And now we're starting to see them fit into the lineup, whether it's in Montreal or in Laval.
And, just to take it a step forward on asset accumulation, the goal for this team is to be the next Chicago Blackhawks, LA Kings, Tampa Bay Lightning, Pittsburgh Penguins. Those are the models of, the modern day dynasties in the NHL, where they're winning multiple Stanley Cups over many years. And what do they all have in common? Whenever it came to their quote unquote last dance with, their more of their secondary players, they had their core intact, and then they just had a revolving door of young guys keep coming in, and then they would play well, they'd win the Stanley Cup, and then those guys would earn a pay bump, and then out the door you go, let's bring in the next wave. And that's kind of the goal for the Canadians with accumulating all these picks.
With all the draft picks they get, I mean, the NHL draft's a crapshoot, right? You look at all the first round picks that haven't made it, high first round picks. So the more picks you have, and especially in the top 2 or 3 rounds, the better odds you have of a couple of them, making it to the NHL and succeeding.
Well, we're seeing that with the Juraj Slafkovsky draft right now. That has the potential to be one of those franchise-altering drafts. We're still waiting in the wings for Philip Mesar and Owen Beck, but that one looks to be like it could be a transformative one for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you look at, people, they talk about, second round picks, or it's not a big deal. But they are, they really are.
No, big time they are.
You're going back to the Slafkovsky draft. I mean, Slafkovsky first overall, Massar 26. And I've said he's sort of become the forgotten guy. And you see some people saying, he'll never make it. He's 20 years old, right? He's 20 years old. He came from a different country. He admitted how difficult that adjustment was for him the first year in junior. More difficult for him in a place like Kitchener than it would have been for Slafkovsky in Montreal, right? You're playing minors, you're riding the buses, you're staying with billets. Difficult situation for him. So, I haven't given up on Philip Massar yet. I mean, he's obviously talented. He wouldn't have been drafted that high. And then, the second round, 2 second-round picks, they got Owen Beck and Lane Hudson. So that's, 3 of the 4 guys we just mentioned are going to play for the Canadians, or have played for the Canadians. Owen Beck will play for the Canadians eventually. I'm convinced of that. And Massar, we'll see. We'll see what happens with him and if he can. But even if you get 3 out of 4, 3 of your first 4 picks to be able to do that, that's one hell of a draft.
And I can name 2 other pretty good second round defensemen just off the top of my head. One is so Lane Hudson, it remains to be seen. He's played 2 games in the NHL, one game in the NHL. However, so 2 games, so it remains to be seen, but with the Canadiens draft record, you can make the argument that Lane Hudson will be the best second round pick defenseman by the Montreal Canadiens since PK Subban.
Yep.
Who was another second round defenseman that a lot of people love? For the people who don't love PK Subban, Shea Weber. He was drafted in the second round.
Yeah.
So the second round picks are usually where, obviously there's the famous Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg, those 6th round hits, more modern day Jesper Bratt. I think he was 5th round. Those are that he's like a modern day vision of that. But the second round and third round is really where your drafts start to become those franchise altering ones that can really change the direction of your team. And they look to have some pretty good ones right now.
That's sort of those diamonds in the rough. When you go back, the Canes won the Cup in '86, right, with Serge Savard as GM. In the '84 draft, in the first round, they took Peter Svoboda 5th overall. They took Shane Corson 8th overall. In the second round, they took Stéphane Richer 29th overall. And then in the third round, they took Patrick Roy 51st overall. 2 years later, those guys won the Stanley Cup. That's 4 for Serge Savard in that draft. And that's, and that led also towards the 93 Stanley Cup also. It was just the draft success. John LeClair was a second-round pick in 1987. So was Eric Desjardins, second-round pick. Matthew Schneider, third-round pick in '87. So that '87 draft, you had Andrew Castles in the first round. He went on to have a long NHL career. Didn't pan out as much with the Canadiens. But then John LeClair, Eric Desjardins, Matthew Schneider. Those 3 guys were part of the 93 Stanley Cup team. So, I'm not saying the Canadiens are going to win the Stanley Cup in 2 or 3 years from now. But the success Kent Hughes has had so far in the drafts, and we'll see what happens now with Demidov and with Michael Hage. They're in a situation to improve their odds in a big way of being that team that can get into the playoffs and then do some damage.
So speaking of Ivan Demidov, we'll shift gears a little bit from potential of the season in the NHL to, I'm sure you've seen the clips. It was his first game in the KHL yesterday or something like that. And it was, listen, I understand people getting excited. I like to get excited as well. But I also have seen enough watching enough hockey that you don't get too high, but don't get too low. So he looked very, very good though, and very encouraging signs to see from he's 18 years old playing against men in the second best league in the world.
Yeah, watching the videos on Twitter and that. He had one hand rush, nice play. he played previously he played on the Russia U23 team against the St. Petersburg team he's now playing with in the KHL. Had a couple of goals, including a shootout winner in that. Canadiens fans love skill, right? You look at Stéphane Richer was a shooter. Cole Caufield is a shooter. Alex Kovalev was a play, they loved Alex Kovalev. They love PK Subban. They love players that have a little flash to their game. And Demidov has that. He has that flash. Slafkovsky doesn't really have that flash, right? He's just a big guy who can shoot and go to net. He's not the guy yet that's going to see him doing an end-to-end rush and stick handling around guys. Lane Hudson, we're going to see some excitement with him. Those are the players Canadiens fans love. Canadiens fans want to be entertained. The older fans like me still remember the Flying Frenchman and Guy Lafleur bringing fans out of their seats. It's been a long time. Canadiens haven't had a lot of players over the last 25, 30 years who really could bring fans out of their seats. Stéphane Richer, the last 50 goal scorer, again, not the big shot, right? He wasn't going end to end, but now they have some players that they're going to be fun to watch. And you think moving forward to next year, you have Demidov here and Lane Hudson here and Laine here if he continues so well. Now you're starting to have even more reason to be excited.
You mentioned, they love skill, Canadiens fans. And that's the thing that brings the electricity to the Bell Center, because it's such a special building. For a building, frankly, none of the history happened in it. It all came in the Montreal Forum. But there's something about the Bell Center that is just very magical to a lot of people. And that's what helps bring some of that electricity. In years past, it's a big game feel because Ovechkin's coming to town. He brings people out of their seats. Sidney Crosby's coming to town. Connor McDavid's coming to town. Soon, it's going to be Ivan Demidov is in town, and he's in town for 41 nights plus playoffs. So that'll really up the excitement, just knowing that on any given night between him, Cole Caufield, Lane Hutson, you mentioned, between those three guys that are probably the three most dynamic players on the Canadiens, maybe Alex Newhook emerges because he looked pretty good last year. That's what's going to really excite people about being in the Bell Center. It's not going to be any more of, the Oilers are coming to town. Let's go watch Connor McDavid. Oh, the Tampa Bay Lightning are coming to town. Let's go watch Nikita Kucherov. It's going to be, hey, let's go watch our Habs beat the crap out of whatever team is coming to town.
Well, the other interesting player who's going to come to town this season, the Canadiens fans will be watching, is Matvei Michkov when the Flyers come.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no, he's the guy the Canadiens passed over in order to take David Reinbacher with the number 5 pick 2 years ago. Philadelphia took Michkov number 7. He's going to be with the Flyers this year. He was at that rookie showcase thing that I mentioned earlier that Mayu and Lane Hutson were at. So there's an exciting player. The guy is potentially an exciting player that the Canadiens took a pass on. So that's one guy I think it'll be. I'm not sure what the date is when the Flyers come to Montreal, but that's a game that I think will be interesting to watch also.
Well, see, it's funny because as you were saying, you're not sure. I'm looking up the date. Their first game, it doesn't really count because it's a preseason game. It's Monday, the 23rd of September. Yeah. However, regular season, I don't think it's not early enough that maybe, who knows? So it'd be October 27th in Philadelphia is their first matchup. Listen, if things they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they have 8 games before that. If things don't go so well for Mr. Matvei at the beginning of his career, he feels the pressure. It's a lot getting used to the North American ice, whatnot. It would be very classic for him to score his first NHL goal against the Montreal Canadiens, because you just know anytime a player is playing in his first game against the Montreal Canadiens, it just so happens that he always seems to score their first goal against the Canadiens.
Well, and he'll know the teams that took a pass on him also, right? I mean, he didn't make it as obvious as Shane Wright did, but he'll know. So, I mean, that's another – there's a lot of good storylines I'm looking forward to this season, and that's one of them. I mean, Flyers were able to get him out of Russia earlier than a lot of people anticipated, including the Canadiens probably. He's going to be in the lineup this year. Again, he's only, he's 19. Has he turned 20 yet? No, he's still 19, turns 20 in December. Big jump KHL to the NHL, and it'll be the same thing for Demidov when he makes the jump from the KHL to the NHL. But another exciting player, Michkov, and another guy that's going to be fun to watch this year.
It'd be interesting to see how the Flyers do, because they were very well. They weren't expected to be in the mix up until the end at all, and then they were, and then they fell apart. And everyone thought John Tortorella was going to blow a gasket, and he said, "Hey, I'm proud of this team. They weren't even supposed to be here. We just did our best, and it's a young group, and this is it." And we go, "Wow, that's John Tortorella. That's the same John Tortorella." But
John Tortorella with Michkov will be interesting to watch also.
Yes,
that'll be an interesting pair to watch.
Yeah. So listen, there's still so many great storylines. We focus a lot on the Canadiens on this podcast, obviously. But around the NHL, it's a very, very interesting to see what's going to be going on. You know what? The other team I'm interested to see how they do. And maybe it's fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 3 times, shame on you type of thing. I wonder when the Ottawa Senators, if they falter again, what happens? When is the hype going to be at a certain point? Because at a certain point, it's out of my hands. You got to show me. I believed in you, and now you fooled me enough. Show me now. You don't get any benefit of the doubt. And I wonder when that leash is going to run out for the Ottawa Senators.
They're the poster team for how difficult how there's no guarantee in a rebuild, right? The Senators have done a lot of good things in the rebuild, acquired a lot of good players. Went out and got Giroux, and it just hasn't clicked for whatever reason. And maybe the culture, I'm not around that team, so maybe the culture in the locker room isn't great. Who knows? But there's something wrong with that team. There's something, the talent they have, they should be better than they have been, but they haven't. The other guy I'm looking forward to seeing this year is Max Celebrini. number one pick. Because I was talking with Scotty Bowman recently. I wrote a column, and he had talked about Jacob Fowler, Canadians goalie prospect. And Scotty watches a lot of U.S. college hockey. He's 90 years old and still sharp as a tack and fun to talk hockey with. And he was talking about Jacob Fowler and what impressed him as a goalie and how he tracks the puck and whatnot. And then he said, and that kid Celebrini, he said, what a hockey player this kid is. And as Scotty noted, he was a year younger than just about every other player in NCAA last season. And he still had, 32 goals and 32 assists in 38 games. Number one pick overall by San Jose. So that's another guy. We talk about storylines to watch moving forward. So, high praise from Scotty Bowman is very high praise. So from the Canadian standpoint, it's good that he thinks so highly of Jacob Fowler. But about Celebrini, he said, he was just going, wow, this kid is what a hockey player.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned Celebrini because I'm looking at the San Jose Sharks and, all these, everyone, it's not only Canadians fans that love prospects. It's everyone around the NHL that gets excited. And the big thing that I saw a couple days ago was a list of about the top 20 prospects that are not in the NHL. And the San Jose Sharks had three guys, in Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, and Sam Dickinson. Those are three very good blue chip prospects that they've acquired in very short order. So I'm really interested to see how quick they can turn it around, especially, they just got Yaroslav Askarov. This is a team that, they had a couple of really, really bad years, but they could turn it around quite quickly.
Yeah, and as Celebrini, I'm sure he'll do well as a rookie in the NHL. But so did Connor Bedard. It didn't really help the Blackhawks all that much, right? They're still a pretty bad hockey team in the beginning of the rebuilding stage, but it certainly gives you a boost when you get the number one overall pick. And we're seeing Slafkovsky with that also, though he's not at that Bedard and Celebrini level. All number one picks aren't created equal. Some stand out above others. But for San Jose, and I'd like to see San Jose do well. I mean, they were so bad at the beginning of last season. Remember, there was almost like a joke.
What did they lose? 11 in a row,
or something? They were losing games like 9-0 and stuff like that.
10-0. I remember 10-0. They let up two games in a row. They let up 10 goals.
And San Jose had a long sellout streak there. San Jose's become a good hockey market. I mean, they have good young hockey program there for kids in San Jose and whatnot. They went through a real bad stretch like the Canadians went through here. And Celebrini is obviously the biggest building block for them moving forward for what they can do. And, I mentioned Shane Wright earlier. I'm interested to see what he does this season in Seattle also. I think he's going to be a good NHL player. You're not it's rare that the top ranked player in his age level, basically every level coming up through youth hockey, doesn't play well in the NHL. So, they've been slower with him and bringing him along than what the Canadians have been with Slafkovsky as far as leaving in the AHL. So that's another guy interested in watching this season.
It's just listen. It's a very exciting, and it's a very why I find the NHL it's a very exciting time in particular is because of how youthful it is. It's really a young man's league. That's really what to me is making it so exciting, and probably why a lot of people are just this infatuation with prospects is just amplifying year after year, because you're seeing these guys step into the NHL and it takes them less than a year to start dominating, and this is a man's game, and these are 18, 19-year-old kids that are just making it look easy.
And we see more and more teams, including the Canadians, locking these young guys up to long contracts, keeping them with the team as long as possible. The other thing looking forward to this year is hockey in Utah. I saw they released their new uniforms the other day, which I thought were pretty cool, very simple, and just Utah with black and blue, which are colors you don't usually see a lot. Yeah, nice and clean. I thought it was really nice looking. It looked like a hockey uniform, right? You go back like the Anaheim Ducks and look like a Disney hockey sweater. But so hockey in Utah, it's summer went by too fast, but hockey season is here starting next Wednesday, as I said, with the rookie camp opening, and I'm looking forward to that also. I'm really looking forward to covering the rookie camp. I'm looking forward to those two prospect challenge games or whatever they're calling them against the Leafs, which are not this weekend, but the following weekend at the Bell Center. 1:00 starts, $10 a ticket for people who want to go. It's going to be fun.
Summer might officially be over, but this is the best time. This is the best weather because it's during the day, it's hot, and at night you put on a sweater. That to me is the best. It doesn't get much better than that.
Not to mention we got the NFL starting. We got hockey starting. We got baseball heading to the playoffs. It's the best NBA stuff. It's the best. I agree. Best season for weather and also the best time for sports.
October and November are peak sports months. Just peak. You got all 4 sports firing on all cylinders. It is unbelievable. And hey, for those who are sad that summer has come to an end or it's coming to an end, like me, don't worry, because we got All Reliable to keep us company as the months and the days get shorter and the days get colder. All Reliable being the big 4 sports. Stu, thank you very much. Go enjoy your weekend and stay dry out there tomorrow.
All right, you too.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon. We'll catch you next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.